And then he just disappeared. He just ghosted us completely. And it was a rainy day. It was like early autumn. And I just felt so deep. I was like, this is like everything that I've been working for, to build for like past like 3 years, all my sacrificing.
Welcome to the Balanced Ambition podcast. I'm your host, Matt Southam. Here, we delve into candid conversations with entrepreneurs, exploring both their business journey and their secrets to maintaining mental well-being. As we navigate the balance of ambition and inner peace, I hope you find insights, inspiration, and invaluable takeaways in every episode. Thank you for joining us. Hi, Nivi. Welcome to the show today. Let's kick off by, first of all, asking a bit about your background, because obviously you grew up in Italy. So tell me what it was like growing up in Italy.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me on the podcast, Matt.
Pleasure.
Going to your question. So, Italy is always well known for like its culture, its food. And I think that played an important role into, growing as an immigrant kid, because also I was born in Italy, but my parents moved from Albania in the early 90s. Okay. And I think they quickly tried to, integrate into the Italian culture. So immigration wasn't really an issue in the early 90s when they first moved. Like, I think we were probably one of the first Albanian family moving to Italy, so everyone was like super welcoming. And I had a very, I was lucky to have a very easy kindergarten, school, primary. Never really suffered too much in terms of like xenophobia or like racism. Every now and then you hear some stupid jokes and people try to outcast you a tiny bit, but that was never really an issue. And I think that made me really, feel in love with the culture and like being part of it. Of course, you always have a bit of you don't feel 100% Italian. I don't feel 100% Albanian. It's this kind of like mix. It was really interesting to watch the game of the Euro actually on Saturday, because it was Italy versus Albania. So of course I was rooting for the underdogs. That was, I think, a nice feeling, but I always had this like mixed feeling of like I belong to both cultures. And I think when in 2016 then I moved here to London, the kind of like Italian background was really important for me into shaping who I was, especially food wise, because to be honest, the British culture in terms of food is not like one of the most refined, let's say, and it, it's like, let's say it sits on the basic, but that helps also to have a lot of cultures coming up. In fact, that's where you get the best food in Europe, because they allowed all these like cultures to really shine, and like you can find like some of like the best, Italian restaurant, French restaurant. Like I saw this video a few months ago, like, oh, where are like the best French restaurants in Europe? London. Because like all the Michelin restaurants are here, because there's such a cosmopolitan city, and that I think played a huge role into growing the food culture in London. And I think that kind of like made in Italy background label really helped when I then got into food, to bring more of a trust in what I was doing.
Yeah, completely. Yeah, I take that on the chin that we don't have that best reputation for our sort of food, but like you say, that has maybe, because it's been very plain, that actually we've been able to bring in everyone else's and incorporate it, and London is an incredibly cosmopolitan city, and therefore actually you're getting the best of everyone, which is fantastic. And certainly we're talking about what you're doing now, but I'm well aware Italian's well known for pasta, pizza, things like that, and a lot of, certainly with pizza, what makes a good pizza is the cheese on it. So tell me about that story and how that all came about.
Yeah. So it's funny you mentioned it because that was back in 2016, 17. I was slowly transitioning to a plant-based diet because I started dating Angela, my current partner, and at the time she was already vegan. I wanted to have that moment of like we're like eating together, but like we're sharing all the food, we're cooking together. And I didn't want to just cook for myself. I wanted to, be able to cook together and have that shared experience. So I started within 6 months to easily give up meat. I gave up cheese, then eggs and fish. But then every time we went out to eat, pizza was always my biggest disappointment. Like I thought vegan cheese was like just really bad. And I got to a point where I'm like happy to give up cheese at all as a category, whether that's dairy or vegan. Like I'm done. It's fine. I'll just eat, the marinara, no cheese. That's okay. And then we saw there was a huge gap in the market for like good vegan cheese that, was healthy at the same time and tasty. And Andra started to make some recipe for me using cashews, fermented cashews. And for the first time, I thought that was amazing. I was like, this is really cool. This is really tasty. And I want to eat it every day. And being both also designers as a background, we made like 1+1. I'm like, well, we have a good product that we're making at home. We could design very quickly some like branding and just for fun, go to some like farmers market over the weekend and see how that goes. We didn't have any aspiration of like building a brand. It was like more of a little exercise, let's apply what we studied. Let's combine it with our love for food. Let's see what happens. And the feedback was great from like the first market stall we had. People immediately were like, oh, that's a working name for a brand. Oh, that's an interesting product. Oh, are you going to be here next weekend? We're going to bring more flavor. Are we going to bring like more product? And that's how very organically we were able to build the brand until we got to a point where in 2020, a pizzeria just around the corner from us, Yard Sale Pizza. I don't know how they found us on Google. They knock on our commercial kitchen and they said, hey, we just saw you guys around the corner. Do you have a vegan mozzarella? And I was just like, no, we don't make like replicas. We make kind of like, we're trying to reinvent a bit the category itself. But they're like, oh, if you can make one, I'd love to try it. So she's like, yeah, fine, I'll do. So we made like 2 samples, brought them to their store. And they're like, oh, wow, sample 1 was really good, melted really well. Can we get like 100 kilo for next week? And we're like, sure. And again, thinking until you make it, like we had to figure out how to scale production within like 2 days. And just endless night of like, we were making soy milk from scratch. We were like soaking the beans, draining them, blending them. We had like a bunch of like nutmeg that I was like squeezing by hand just to extract the milk out of the pulp, and then cooking it, and then chilling it, and then slicing it and wrapping it by hand. And on a Monday, I was like there with like this huge crate to go back and forth to bring, because it was likely only 3 minutes walk. I said, hey, here's your first 20 kilos. I'll come back in a few minutes. And then they're like, fine, this is amazing. Can we get it again next week? So again, just to show you how everything went very organically, because we had the right product at the right time, at the right place as well, because we started in East London, Hackney, and that's where all the vegan businesses were like starting to pass to create a kind of a movement. And everything combined together was the perfect recipe to, help us build what Entrepreneurship today is.
Yeah, I mean that's a real accolade that a pizza place came to you and said about the vegan cheese, because there are vegan cheeses about, but I guess the one issue on pizza is not just the taste, it's the texture and the way it melts, and
yes.
and that's always been a stumbling block, and you've overcome that, which has meant that actually you can have a pizza that is decent and is also vegan cheese on it as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we had two missions. One was to initially educate chefs, because chefs were really resilient to. There's different categories. There's the chef that's really open and like, oh my gosh, yeah, let me try. Can't wait to get a better product. There's the chef that's like, yeah, we don't sell a lot of like vegan pizza, but that's because also they don't use the good stuff. So they're like interested to give it a go. And then they're like the one that like don't really care. They just have a vegan option as a default to have it, but they don't put any effort in it. So there's like these three different categories, like the super enthusiastic one, the open-minded one, and the one that you really need to work with. And I think because food speaks for itself, every time we brought the sample and they baked it, like, this is good. And then you start to build, different relationship with them, start to help them figure out how many kilograms do you go per week? What can we do to help you? Okay, let's start small. Let's maybe give you like smaller sizes rather than 2 kilos. Let's, start with like 200 grams retail size and start to build that up. Can we promote, that we have like a pizza with you? Can we do a collab? Can we do a special one? And then once you educate your chefs, then it's way easier to educate your customers because again, they try it, they eat it, they like it. And then as long as we can also get our name on the menu, I think that's becoming more and more of a trademark that you have the good pizzas. Like when, Beyond Meat was like putting their name on every burger and everyone was like, oh yeah, it's a Beyond Meat. It's not like just a made up quinoa beans, Satan, kind of like Frankenstein. Nothing wrong with those. But some people really wanted to.
They've got the name, and I have a Beyond Burger. I know it is going to taste good. Yeah. So I mean, from that, so you started off. You're doing a farmer's market, then you're supplying a pizza place. But there's more to this journey, isn't there? Do you want to take us up to almost where you are now?
Yeah. So we started everything from home. I think one of the beautiful thing about the UK is that you can really start a business from home, from your garage. Is like, this kind of like American dream in the UK where, you're the way it works compared to Italy, where you need a lot of paperwork, you need to get approved, you need to like spend a lot of money just to validate the setup of your business without even knowing if your business is going to make it. It doesn't make any sense. I think here, what was amazing was that we could apply with our local council to get like a, health and safety food inspection. And then, as long as you follow all the rules and you're like, keep good standards like hygiene and cross-contamination allergens. I think that's amazing because, maybe you want to just spend initially 3 months just to see, does it make sense to pursue this or not?
Yeah.
We didn't really know, again, that we were building a business. We were just kind of like keeping up with demand of like more people wanting more. We're like, fine, let's work an extra day and make more cheese. Let's, okay, maybe look at the cost and see, can we reduce some of the cost by buying bulker? Can we get a better blender? Can we cut down our labor by, doing this and that? So we started getting into the business week after week of like how to build, how to make our life easier. Just because also initially working from home, being a couple, we felt like we're just working too much and we needed some kind of like discipline in terms of how can we manage better this like work-life balance in terms of like time, in terms of like space as well. So I think when we moved after 18 months from our flat to a first commercial kitchen, that was a huge step. Of course, you're taking more risk because there's an extra rent that you got to pay and there's like more costs involved. You're like starting to talk about, you need an energy supplier that needs to be a business one, water supplier. There's all these like new overheads that weren't part of like your first initial setup. But that comes with the challenge, that comes with like, okay, and that's maybe more my attitude. How can I make things better to go to the next level? So I think the fact that we were also a couple helped us to kind of like be there for each other whenever one of us needed more support. Because it can be a really tough journey. And if you're by yourself, we've seen a lot of like solo entrepreneurs running their businesses, and it's really hard to there's no one really supporting you, and we were lucky to have each other. So from our first commercial kitchen, we had a 5-year lease, but within 2 years we outgrow the space. So we move into a new one, which is the current one where we're based right now in Hackney Wick. And this is 4 times the space in terms of square feet from the previous one. It's been an amazing, interesting journey, because this used to be an empty warehouse. I remember when we first came here with the estate agent, they opened the shutter, we saw this like huge warehouse, and like started to like picture, okay, maybe we can have like a bunch of walls here, start to build a kitchen. And I remember me and Andrea were like just taking some tape, putting it on the floor. I was like making some step to see, okay, this could be good enough space to operate and move around. And then just on Illustrator, I had a floor plan. I started to like draw a little sketch of like where we can put this. So as a designer, again, that kind of like knowing how to use the tools was really good. And then we just printed on an A3, went to our builder at the time and said, hey, do you think you can build this for us? And then, yeah, sure, put some pipes, put some walls. And I think we did a pretty good job, because again, it's been 3 years that we're here, and there's still the way we kind of like designed it is still allowing us to like grow in terms of like production. So got into this big space, of course, start to produce more, start to like increase like the amount of units you're making bigger batches, which means you need to again think about, how can I make my life easier? Can I get maybe a bigger blender? Can I get a tool that can help me with this and that? And then you also start to hire people, because then you can't do everything, right? When we started, we were doing production, we were doing sales, we were doing branding, we were doing social media, and then you need someone better than you doing production, and someone better than you doing sales. So now I think we're finally getting to the stage where we found some amazing people that joined us, and they're like helping us to, take us to the next level. Our current level, though, which I'm really happy and proud of where we are with the company, is that we have an online shop that we sell directly to customers, which is the fun part, because we're more, it's like going back in the first days. We can always bring a new product, put it out there, and sell it directly, because we don't need a barcode. You don't need all those kind of like being approved by a buyer before you get it into retail. We can have all the fun that we want. So that's a way that we have to still be in touch with the customers. We send also regular newsletter every month. We announce if there's anything happening, big announcements or like a new product, and then we have that kind of like interaction. The other channels that we sell to retailers, so whether that's directly or by distributor, that massively help the business to, start to get more and more out there in the UK, where sometimes we get someone living in a very remote town tagging us on Instagram, oh, look what I found in my local grocer. And it's it's such a joy. Sometimes we forget how far our product can go and like make a change and make like an impact. And then the other channel is food service, which is, I think, the most exciting for me, because it's where people actually don't have a choice when they go and eat outside. Because if you go and buy your groceries, you can choose, do I want to buy this product, or I want to buy this brand, or I want to buy this and that. But when you eat outside, you kind of like trust they're going to use good ingredients, and hopefully going to have a, great taste experience, customer service as well. So knowing that we can make people happy when eating outside, because the shelf from the very first step chose a great ingredient, I think that's where we can have a better and bigger impact in terms of like improving the reputation for like plant-based cheese in the category. Because I think it's the one that's like suffering the most. There's amazing like milk alternative, amazing like meat alternative, but like cheese has always been the one that put people off. So that's the kind of exciting kind of journey for us. How can we improve that? So it's been 6 years, and recently we also launched into avocado, which was a huge milestone
Yeah.
for us. Being a completely independent business, we never raised, we're looking to raise. So if any angel investor is listening to this podcast, I think that's our preferred route, just because compared to other businesses that raise money using like VC and like big funds, we feel there's a bit of a disconnect with those kind of like huge companies where are looking most of the time at companies as how can I scale this fast, rather than an angel investor who is someone that probably have had one or two businesses, has a better understanding of how things work, and can be more of an added value for us. So yeah, again, going back to Ocado, that was a great moment for us, because it's like, all this like hard work is paying back. Of course, it always paid back, but it's like when you get like, it's like when you do your first half marathon, like, wow,
Yeah.
all those first kilometers were important, or your like first 10K, 15K were all good. But when you do your first one, you're like, this is great. So now we're looking to, keep growing.
Yeah, you are right. It is hitting those milestones. It's really exciting that the first time, and every step when you're growing a business, from that first sale all the way up until like
Yeah.
you say, those fantastic deals. And it's really interesting what you're saying about making sure you get it into restaurants with chefs and things like that, because that adds that real credibility. Because if the venue is choosing to serve it, then they're trusting your product to give a great experience to their customers. And therefore, it's like a toothpaste. The dentists recommend this. It's like you want to be recommended by the top people, and by getting into restaurants and things like that. And certainly with your cheeses, vegan cheese has been the stumbling block, I think, for lots of people going vegan. I've heard that numerous times. That actually can't give up cheese, but it
was for me.
Yeah, it was for you, and that's one of the beauties. Actually, I guess you've grown a business almost out of you experience the problem. Businesses basically just solve problems, don't they, for people?
Yes.
And you had a problem and you solved it for yourself, and then have managed to push this out.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of people sometimes are maybe afraid of pursuing their kind of like dreams, because a dream is like, how can I do something beautiful, and how can I have fun, how can I like solve something, and that comes through a lot of like hard work, or like maybe tough decision, because before this I tried to like start a tech startup. And that's because I had an issue with shipping. I'll explain you briefly. I was I started in Milan. I was working there as a designer, and then I moved to Istanbul. I lived there for like almost 3 years. And when I moved from Milan to Istanbul, I had an issue, which was, how can I take all my belongings with me? I have like books, I have like a lot of like clothes and stuff, and using courier were too expensive. So I thought, there's 5 flights a day from Milan to Istanbul. 5 flights a day. And these are like, not like small Ryanair like airplane, they're like, big ones. And I'm like, if I could find someone that's just traveling with their like handbag, they're not checking in their bag, I could use their like spare capacity space to take my stuff. And I thought, I think this is a smart idea. There's a lot of like difficult things to make it happen, but I'm like, I want to pursue it. I want to try it. I want to give it a go. I don't want to regret it. So I made a bold decision, like quitting my job and, going kind of like full time into that, doing some freelancing on the side to like support myself. And I think when the vegan cheese, issue came, I'm like, you know what? I think it will be a shame if we don't give it a go, because we love food. So it's good to work with something that you love. Imagine if I had an issue with accounting. I hate accounting. Like someone can fix it. I hope they can fix it. But it is like something that really has an impact on you, and you kind of like that industry or that aspect. I think it's, I always tell people, it's so easy to just fall into a full-time job. You work, you do your thing, go home, you don't have to think about it. But if they can have had a chance to just, give a go to something and like try to pursue it, I think the kind of reward that you get from it, and the things that you're learning, like, all these like 6 years, I feel like I've taken so many master class about so many different topics. It's, even if tomorrow we're not going to make vegan cheese anymore, there's so many more opportunities that came and can come from this experience, all the amazing people that I met, all the businesses, all the things that I learned, whether that's related to maybe launching a new product, working, into branding, hospitality as well. Because of this, a bit less than 2 years ago, we also opened a plant-based cafe, Delhi, in Broadway Market. It's called Third Culture Delhi. And that's just, again, we had an issue. We love going out and eat, and it's really hard still in 2024 to find good vegan food that's also not too heavy and healthy, and also gluten-free, because Angela, unfortunately, is gluten-free, not by choice. So we're like, oh, wouldn't it be so nice if we had our own cafe and we could, cook all the food that we like, use it as a little window to also showcase the cheeses, and have fun with, like, combining again designing to maybe take it to the next level. Can we do the interior? It will be really cool if we had this kind of like vibe. And then again, we made that jump, self-funded the opening of the cafe. And after the first year was really tough, because, you expect you're like in this like really like busy street, you're gonna be great from the first day, but it doesn't work like that. So we had to learn a lot about hospitality, about, customer service, about how to display the product, how to sell them, and how to educate your customers. Because we're still doing a lot of like funky drinks and coffee, and people are like, oh, what's that? And then you make them try until they're like hooked. And again, and another amazing experience of like, we totally went into something new. And now I'm like so much, I'm like getting so many experiences, and like, what's the word? Like, I feel like so enriched of everything that I'm learning, that I can see how I can apply that into different projects.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really key thing you said, that if you can find something that you love and there is a need for it, that is the seed for starting a business, because you do need to have a passion for it. And if other people need it, yes, you're going to have to learn lots along the way, but you've already got the idea that has legs. It has potential to work. And it was interesting what you said about learning lots along the way, because I think business it's just constant learning, isn't it? There's always different areas. And even if you stop your current business, actually you can transfer lots of those over into another. So even if you start a business and it fails, actually what you've learned can transfer over into the next one.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, it took me a while to learn and understand that my tech business wasn't going to make it, because you're also very emotionally attached. And then at the time I also had like a few investors, so I was also very, I didn't want to let them down. I wanted to like make sure I was like giving everything to make it work. But then I had to get to a point where I'm like, yeah, this is just not working unless someone is willing to invest, I don't know, 1 million, and I tried to push it, and like, I had to let go. But it took me a while to emotionally get ready to do it, and also break the news to the investor and be like, I really, really tried, and I think this is not working. I'm really sorry. And investor, they're taking a risk. If every business was good, everyone would be rich and made it. But like, it's failing, as much as it can like be hurtful and stressful, it will happen. It's just important to know that it's happening at the right time. So if you failed too early, maybe they didn't push enough. So it's good to like have that kind of like keep the momentum and you keep trying. But then at some point, you just feel it. I think you also feel it when you're like vulnerable and like start to meet other founders, other like mentors. You start to share your like experience and journey, and then you start to get a feedback from them. And if they're like good people, they will give you the right feedback. You know, if you come with me with an idea which I think it's amazing and it's not working, I'll do my best to help you to make it work. But if the problem you're solving is like so niche and I don't really see it as a business, more as a hobby, I think it's, you know, good to be honest and be like, you know, maybe this is not a good idea for a business. It's a great idea for your spare time to pursue. So
yeah. Do you think that's key in business, having mentors or coaches or people that you can bounce ideas off? Because
absolutely.
are we too close to our own business?
Absolutely, yes. It's not easy to find the right mentor. We had people in the past that came from a very corporate background, no experience in food, and there was just no connection in what we needed and what they knew. But then we had also some amazing people that have a food business, went through our journey, and were able to like, you know, give us some easy tip that were like, wow, why didn't I think about it before? You know, like some no-brainers. And at the same time, I feel I'm also doing a bit that with younger businesses that, you know, they come to us and they've seen our journey, they've seen what we've done, and I can see already what they're doing right and wrong and be like, have you thought about this or have you thought about that? So I think having a network of like people in your industry is really key to grow things better, to build healthier businesses, and also have that moment of like that you can only have between founders and like being vulnerable about things are not working, things are like frustrating, because maybe like we briefly touched before, there's this facade of like things are great. You need to always like be super positive. You need to keep praising your business or whatever you're doing on LinkedIn or like events and stuff, because you don't want to be negative, because also people are not going to attract to negative stories, which is probably also not the platform where to share them. Maybe to a degree, yes, but it's good to also have those real conversation, maybe behind the scene with like founders, and maybe in front of the scene, not be too, wow, everything is perfect. Because I think I started to read in between the lines sometimes. I'm like, I can see how this is actually not true. There's a lot of people like, also with like in the past few years, all these like companies like, oh, we're doing so great. And I could see that business model not being great, especially with, I'll say it, with, you know, the 10 minutes fast deliveries.
Yeah.
Like, oh, we can bring it. And I always thought that was a really weird concept. Like, no one needs their groceries in 10 minutes. It's, you know, maybe an issue people had during COVID, not being able to go out and needing their stuff in. But I'm like, I don't see this working. And in fact, they all closed down. All of them in the UK. So only the on-labeled one, like Ocado, Tesco and Sainsbury, they're like still alive because they're already part of a network. But like all the one that came out, like they were like 5, 6, 7. I'm like, this is really weird. There's way too much money thrown into this business model. I don't see how this can like scale. But I could see how everyone was like boasting about like, oh wow, we're like made so many sales. We made like got so much money, and we're like moving into this city and this city. And like, I just felt it didn't feel organic. And I feel like people need to be more organic into their growth, into how they validate a product as well. Because if you can sell without someone supporting you, then you know you have a great product. Because customers are like reading immediately. Oh, I love the packaging. I love the flavor. I'm sold. But if you need to spend so much money to like put your product out there to maybe one day break even, you're almost forcing people to buy your stuff to like justify that.
Yeah. Yeah, which doesn't work. I think that's great to, to test things, to get, if people are interested and you can actually solve a problem and people like it, then yes, start to scale. But you don't necessarily need to. You don't necessarily need that huge investment right at the start.
Is it
First of all, just test. Is this going to work? Because
exactly?
then you can fail early. And I mean that in
And
the
it's
nicest
cheaper.
possible way. It's cheaper. If something isn't going to work, you want to find out as soon as possible so that
Yeah.
actually you can move on. I think, calling out the ball that we see. Yeah, some people just big everything up a little bit too much.
Is it?
But in fact,
Like maybe.
business can be tough. It doesn't mean that you're not going to succeed. It doesn't mean things aren't going to get there. But it does mean that along that journey, it is tough, and it can take a toll on you. I mean, you said
Yes.
about your tech startup. I can imagine that was a really tough conversation to obviously have with the investors, but equally to have with yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. It was tough, and I consider myself a really like happy, positive person. John, my partner, she called me like a golden retriever because I'm always like this happy guy, and I think I manage stress very easily. I don't get too overwhelmed, and I'm probably good at like doing other things to like get rid of like stress, like classic exercising and all of that. But at some point, I really remember there was a specific day where we were all waiting, me and the shareholders, to get this new investor on board that was in love with the idea. We had like several meetings, we met in person, everything was signed on paper, and we were just waiting for the bank transfer. It's such a classic thing. Just waiting for the bank transfer. And then it was taking some more time, like weeks. And then our cash flow was like getting lower. Because we were still at a point where we were making any revenue, it was still building the tech. And then he just disappeared. He just ghosted us completely. And it was a rainy day. It was like early autumn. And I just felt so depressed. I was like, this is like everything that I've been working for, to build for the past like 3 years. All my sacrificing, like, slept on the couch at one of my best friends for like 15 months because, I just needed to focus on that. Moving here was a big step, not knowing any. I had a few friends, of course, but like, it's a new country, starting everything from scratch, and getting to a point where we're all feeling so good about like building this and getting the website up and running, starting to work a bit on the branding, starting to work on the app, and then finally getting like this angel that's like sold and everything, and then everything collapsing in front of me was so tough. And I think it took me 1 or 2 days to really like accept it and like be ready to move on, in terms of like there's no point of like fighting for this person. Like, I need to accept this is not happening. But it's it depending on also on the scale of the business, and also maybe how tough like you are, it can be really heavy, really heavy thing.
Yeah, completely.
Wow.
So, I mean, just to finish off today, let's go on to something positive.
Yeah.
What advice would you like to give to someone starting out? You said that you love it when young businesses sort of come to you and you're able to give some advice. What advice would you give to anyone listening today?
I think maybe I'm a bit biased, but what's really important, first impression, is branding. Let's say whether that's tech, a service, or food, a product. I think the branding, the way you're like showing yourself first, it's really important, because through branding, we were able, just by making our products from home, to get into Fortnum and Mason within like 6 months of launching, because they thought we were a legit big company. They saw the labels, they saw the branding, they saw the presentation, like, wow, this is really cool. little they knew, it was just me and Angela from home making small batches 10 times a day just to fulfill the order. So I think that's really important. I've seen so many people that they come to our shop and they always stop in front of the same 3 products just because the label is nice, the waste, the packaging is, showing the product, or like there's always a few touches that like working. So I think a good branding can elevate average product in terms of taste. Of course, taste and quality is really, really important. That should always be at the core. But whatever reps it, I think the branding really helps to, grow the perception of the product and the brand itself, the company. So that will be where I would focus. We're also really lucky to be doing everything in-house, because as a designer, I'm like, I'll take care of it. I know it can be really expensive sometimes. It doesn't have to be expensive. There's definitely solutions and people out there. You don't need to go to an agency. There's amazing freelancer, whether you need an illustration, whether you need like some good copy, or just a designer that can put together an idea. But I think that will be where I would try to focus. So name, which is part of the branding, and the whole brand identity itself.
Yeah, I completely agree. That first impression, is going to set the stage for all sort of future communication and interaction. So branding is such an important part. Nivi, thank you so much for your your honesty and telling me your story today. I've really appreciated it. I'm so pleased because there was clearly, some really tough times in there. And I'm glad to see you're okay. I'd like to think that, are you okay? Can I just check in on that? You're good at the moment?
We are really good.
Good. Because that's what's important, so I'm so pleased that actually you've got a real passion with what you're working with, and that you're making a really good impact. So, thank you again for telling me the story, and I wish you all the very best with the future of your business.
Thanks, Matt. And again, it was a pleasure to, be one of your guests. It's a great way, I'm always like really honored when like people reach out and they want to give me like their platform and share with their audience, because it's such a great opportunity for like founders and people to share the story, and you allowed me today doing that. So thank you so much.
Been my pleasure. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Balanced Ambition podcast. I genuinely hope the stories inspire you as much as they inspire me. If you found value in today's conversation, please share it with a friend. And remember, by subscribing, you won't miss an episode, and it would truly mean the world to me. Stay balanced, and I'll see you next time.